Hello and welcome back to Let's Talk with Parul, Mom's Presso's very own talk show where we believe and we've seen that speaking out makes a difference. High on the list of conversations that just need to happen is one on mental health disorders in children, in young people. It's a fast-growing epidemic and also the most under-recognized and underdiagnosed. I think the whole concepts of a carefree, happy, stress-free childhood went out of fashion with baggy pants. And now what we have is a generation struggling hard to find their happy zone. So let me introduce my guest on this note. With me in the studio today is one such young lady who struggled with the dark clouds of depression from the very young age of 13. Today, she's a successful actor with some prestigious projects in her portfolio and some really exciting ones coming up. Aradhana Dhawan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for calling me.
And joining Aradhana is her mother, the very dynamic Anuradha P Dhawan, or Anu PD as she is popularly known, and well respected as a fashion and textile innovator. Thank you so much, Anu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Parul. Happy to be here.
And also to give us the expert perspective is Arvinder J. Singh. She's a highly experienced psychotherapist, a volunteer at Sanjivini Society for Mental Health, and the founder-director of the Ashoka Center for Wellbeing at Ashoka University. Thank you so much, Arvinder.
Thank you for inviting me.
So we've got a huge lineup of things, of course. We're going to be talking about, Aradhana, your experiences, Anu, how you supported her through it. Arvinder, we're going to be asking you about, from the expert perspective, that what is it that is going on in children's minds. But just to set the context, let me tell you that we started this week with a poll on Facebook. If we can have that poll on screen, please. So we asked a simple question. Do you think young children and adolescents can be prone to depression and suicidal tendencies? A resounding 93% said yes. It is possible for children to suffer from depression. But we also know that there are many well-intentioned adults who still believe that children cannot get depressed. That is not something that can hit the young people. They're supposed to be happy. It's childhood after all. And that's why we thought we'll start this discussion with a few slides of data, just to set it in context. And it might be a little hard-hitting, but I think that's the hard reality of mental illness in any way. So we'll play some slides for you. The first slide, slide 1, shows the extent of the disorder in India. According to a WHO report, a quarter of children in the age group of 13 to 15 years suffer from depression. That's a staggering 25%, 1 in 4 teens. Slide 2, that's another very hard-hitting statistic that we have here. This brings out the worst case scenario of severe depression and anxiety left untreated, suicide. As per a Lokniti CSDS youth survey, 6% of students who responded to this survey confessed to having suicidal thoughts. Slide 3 shows the more alarming trend for India as a whole. According to the WHO report, we have the highest youth suicide rates in Southeast Asia as a region. Going to the next slide. Slide 4, unfortunately, does not bring any better news. As per the last National Mental Health Survey, less than 1/4 of students with suicidal tendencies had sought help. And our last slide, slide 5, shows a national average to confirm that fact. Only about 10 to 12 people suffering from depression in India get treated. Stigma against mental illnesses emerges as the biggest obstacle in getting people the care and support they need. So coming back to my panel. Now, these figures are definitely very, very alarming. And I think what bothers me the most is that 25% of our young generation, the emerging generation, the future, as we call them, is struggling with mental health disorders of some type. Out of that, only about half are getting any kind of treatment or even reaching out for help. That says a lot for the status of this particular generation. In fact, Arvinder, you're probably the best place to answer this question. We're looking at data, we're looking at statistics, you're looking at real life cases day in and day out in your role at Ashoka University as well as your volunteer role. So what is it that is happening? Why is this such an epidemic of young people falling prey to various sorts of mental health illnesses?
Well, there is a lot that's happening, and we all are aware of all sorts of breakdowns of systems that are happening, the support systems. I mean, earlier we all had a joint family system, children were growing in a family, and there was a lot of support. Now what's happening is that's broken down. There's a lot of stress around. There's a lot of stimulation around for our children. And there's a lot of fear associated with missing out. So FOMO is very, very real, not just in children, but adults as well. So I think everything just contributes. And I don't know whether I want to call it an epidemic, because that kind of labeling sort of...
Of course, sure. That's a layperson term I use.
Sure, yeah, no, I mean, it's just, but yes, it's on the rise. And we really do need to do something about it. So the reasons could be many. The reasons could be the stresses that they are facing. It could be school. It could be their social life. It could be social media. It could be dysfunctional families. It could be illness.
So the trigger could be anything. It's like as wide as illness to bereavement to, like you said, the breakdown of families,
or even chemical.
Or even chemical, something which is inherently.
It could be inherent. It could. I mean, it's not like completely that if your parent has it, you're 100% going to get it, but it just makes you more vulnerable to getting it. So it's more prone, and also the social environment in the home is not then very prone to helping the child. Yes.
Supporting them out of that.
Sure, because situation. If a mom is depressed, I mean, how much of the energy does she have to take care of the child? So with that perspective, there's a whole lot of factors that come in.
But tell me, is this starting earlier than ever before? What are the trends?
You see, I mean, even toddlers are known to have anxiety and depression. I mean, at least anxiety leading to depression, and even depression, it's confused with sadness. And I mean, sadness is something that happens, but of course, when it persists for a long period of time, say more than 2 weeks or so, then you really need to take a call. And there could be like life situations. A toddler could be, the separation anxiety for the toddler is very real.
Right, of course.
And then if untreated, if not looked at, and research shows that, as young as 3 years, or even toddlers, as I said. Yeah, but of course, largely it starts showing in the school years, and it peaks in the adolescence, because these are major transition years. There's a lot of changes physically that are happening as well. There's a lot of groups in school and so on and so forth happening. So there is the conditions are very potent for conflict, for confusion, which leads to, which can be a trigger. Absolutely.
Also, at this stage, I'd like to understand the difference between depression and various anxiety disorders, because I think that's also confused a lot.
Yeah. See, anxiety is a very normal reaction to any kind of a stressful situation. So it could be, and all anxiety is not bad. Actually, it also pushes into action, and you get some things out, you get some things done. But when anxiety persists and it sort of destabilizes you, and you cannot do your day-to-day work. So if a child does not want to go to school, his behavior is suddenly changing, so he's more prone to anxiety. And anxiety unattended, unaddressed, can lead to anxiety attacks or panic attacks. I mean, there are various kinds. There are generalized anxiety disorders, panic disorders, and so on and so forth. But of course, those are just labels, as I said. The point is, if a child or an adult is anxious, you need to handle that. Depression, again, I said many reasons it could be, whether it's conflict or whether it's any other situation, a grief, a loss of face, a loss of friend, partner, relationship, any of those. Or it could be chemical or physiological, where there is a definite, one of the neurotransmitters which we need in our body to be happy, or for our day-to-day functioning, serotonin it drops. It's a very chemical reason. So that's where it can happen. So these are the broad categories. But of course,
so I think the red flag, like you said, is when it starts impairing or hampering your day-to-day functioning. Absolutely. That's when you really need to take a call and maybe see a specialist and find out what's happening, whether it's anxiety or depression or whatever else we can call it.
I would just say that, to begin with, talk to someone. Because the biggest thing is nobody talks about it. So you talk to someone, talk to a friend, talk to a parent, talk to a specialist. There are organizations like Sanjivini,
Yes.
who are there to help you, and there are many more. And just talking helps many times.
Right.
And if you find that this talking is not lifting your mood, is not making you feel even a little better, there could be a chemical component. That's when we refer you on, or somebody would ask you to see a psychiatrist.
The next step.
Yes,
yeah,
we have very definite, very, very dedicated child and adolescent psychiatrists who would be, who are specialized in looking at children and their issues. And of course, as I said, parents, the mothers are,
the first step. The first step.
what an anxious and a depressed child can do to you,
Right.
and what an anxious mom can do to a child. So it's like, so we need to take care of it as that. So these are, just talk, like your
Right.
show says, let's talk.
Let's talk. Absolutely. That's where we start.
Yeah.
Aradhana, moving on to you. I have to confess, I hesitated a lot before calling you on the show, and I have expressed that to you because
I've heard.
you heard.
Yes.
So my only hesitation was that, scraping old wounds, revisiting a time which was probably the darkest in your life. I'm hoping it'll probably be the darkest and you never have to see those kind of days again. So, but I know you have been really courageous in stepping up and saying that, no, I want to talk about my story. I want to bring it out, help other people, make some kind of an impact. So first of all, thank you so much for that. Really.
It is truly, thank you for calling me here. It is such an honor. I honestly, as I wouldn't say an adolescent, but early adulthood, when I had started pursuing acting professionally,
Yes.
I always dreamt that if I ever, reach a point in life where, I can address a large number of people and have some sort of influence on them, I would definitely want to speak about mental health. And I'm so happy that we've reached a point in this world where, compared to where I was,
Right, yes. So many years back.
about a decade ago. So I there wasn't so much awareness back then, and I really wish there was, but I made it my you could say a sort of goal in life to definitely address this when I got the opportunity or a platform to do so.
Well, here's your chance today.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is a start.
Thank you so much.
So,
It's truly a very, very special moment.
Entirely our pleasure, our honor, of course. Aradhana, tell us something about your own story. What was depression like in your life and how it impacted your life? I want to say.
Well, okay. This may sound extremely blunt and graphic, but it just wreaks havoc on your life and on now that I look back, I realize even my parents were greatly impacted by it. It affects your family, it affects you, and more than anything, what really, really concerns me, which is why I wanted to speak about this, is that it can really change what you could have become. I will rephrase that. There is a child. The child has infinite potential. We keep growing. The child can, become somebody who is probably giving a TED talk one day, or a neurosurgeon, or anything, But because in their early years, something like this happens, and they aren't able to exploit their entire potential, so to say, their growth gets stunted. And that for me is the most unfortunate thing, because then the world is losing out on a very special person, or somebody who could have been that very special person, because of the lack of and I genuinely don't think it's individual people to blame. It is the system. It is the fact that we have normalized so many things, like earlier we were speaking, we have normalized words like crazy or words like mad, and we just throw them around loosely without realizing
the impact.
Absolutely.
So in your case, the trigger was in school.
In school, I've always been somebody who is very sensitive, and that continues.
Which is not a bad thing.
It's not. Sure. I did think it was at the time, because in high school is a jungle, and if anyone who's watched the film, it was a very popular cult film, Mean Girls, when we were growing up.
Right.
There is a scene in the lunchroom where this girl is sitting with her tray, and she's looking for a place to sit, but nobody lets her sit next to them. All the tables, somebody's putting a bag on the chair, somebody says you can't sit with us, some people just get up and leave. That has actually happened to me. I mean, it may sound dramatic, but it has happened to a lot of. I have spoken to so many people when I travel, when I'm in Mumbai, and so many people have gone through that very, that very scene, and they relate to it, which is probably why the film did so well. So I, in fact, stopped eating. For the longest time, I would not eat lunch at school and I was losing a.
Because you were being isolated.
Yes, so mealtime, your lunchtime became sort of a very scary time. I used to dread it. I used to look at the time and I used to be like, oh no, it's lunchtime. And I would just think of ways to kill time for that half an hour that we used to get. And I wouldn't eat. I would just probably stay in the classroom the main reason was, of course, bullying.
Yeah, you mentioned that
Yes.
and that went on for many years, you said.
Many years. It started with it had a very nascent stage that in class 6, but it just, these things have a way of growing like weeds, especially when the person who is I don't want to use the word victim, but the person who is at the receiving end, when they are somebody who is already very shy, is already very introvert, and then it just becomes, it's an ideal breeding ground for this. So that happened, and
you must be wondering, why are you at the receiving end and the target?
So now that I look back, I probably think it was because I was slightly eccentric. I did some modeling with my parents for some print ads, for a car brand and for a camera brand and all of that. And the magazines would be in our school library.
Okay, so you were visible.
They would see those magazines and they would make fun of me.
But I would think that, something like that is a little glamorous, that is more aspirational.
So that is what my father would say when I would go crying to him, that you should be proud. And now that I look back, of course I should have been proud. But they make you feel like you are different, like you are weird or an alien, or there's something wrong with you because you're different. And maybe it comes from I can't be sure of what the reason is, but I feel in some cases it is their own personal insecurity.
Right.
So a lot of bullies tend to be very insecure people
themselves.
And I genuinely wish I could cut the bully some slack, but I feel that something like this is completely unpardonable, because you are messing up other people's lives. And I generally feel the parents of such bullies should get counseling as well, because the child is probably not evolved enough to be able to receive the counseling properly. So if there is a child who is being accused of bullying and
take it seriously,
they are made to get counseling, I feel the parents should be involved as well.
For sure. Yeah. Anu, were you aware of all of this happening? At what point did you get aware, rather? Did Aradhana come to you, or did you pick up signs? What was happening at home?
So firstly, I'll start by saying that, this tween kind of age and, early teenage is a time when girls in school or in the playground are kind of exercising their female power and learning, the games.
The games,
yeah.
right.
So, who's
power
going
play.
to the power play? Who's going to dominate over the group?
The popular girls.
Yeah, and unlike boys, where this is my thought, that unlike boys who kind of push around and get it over and done with, so there's the physicality of it. I feel that young girls, they have been watching their role models at home, on cinema, and they've been kind of figuring out how to negotiate this crucial time where that is not just the alpha male, it's also like an alpha female who has to be part of the group. And we see it amongst adult women. Like, you know, you're in a restaurant, you watch a kitty party, or in a social setting, you will always see these different roles being played out. And so for, you know, quite a few months, you know, it was, because like she said, it was just something which was nascent, it would just come and go. The child, and every child is special, every child is different. Some children kowtow, some girls kowtow, and you know, they will subscribe to whatever the alpha female is touting, or whatever the latest trend is, or whatever the latest book to read is. I remember those days, Mary Jane, the Olsen twins.
Right.
That
There's
used to
a
be,
pressure to conform.
you know.
Of course,
So she would come back and she'd say, "Mom, I have to get that book." And I said, "You know, you're reading some book." She says, "No, actually, you know, I don't like to, but I will have to read that book because..."
I was reading Call of the Wild.
You know,
It was about a wolf.
And okay, and then you switched over to the Olsen twins.
No, I wanted to buy it. Mom said, "No, but you're already reading this, and you know, are you interested in this?"
So it was things like this, you know, and so we kind of, you know, I would always tell her, I said, "Look, stand up for what you like. Just because somebody else is reading the Olsen twins doesn't mean you too have to."
Sure.
So it was, you know, this kind of thing. In the meantime, she was having a near normal sort of childhood. Friends were coming home, you know, there was the usual thing going on at school. But then this whole thing of, you know, oh, the model is here. And, you know, those kind of very disparaging barbs, those kind of comments. Oh, cutie, cutie, oh, sweetie, sweetie, you know, so who do you think you are? And like, if she would answer in class, she would be called the teacher's pet. So it's just a question of, when they know that they can get away with it, the bullies will really take over. You know, we really have to watch out for that.
It's not about what they're saying. They
can say anything.
It's not about the content. It's about the intention. The intention is to feel uplifted by putting others down.
Yeah.
However you do it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So we kind of, to continue, we kind of, my husband and I, we kind of kept counseling her and telling her, you know, it's okay, it's all right. And it was okay. But then when, you know, they were in their, like, you know, 14, 15, that kind of an age, we realized that things were coming to a head. It was also the advent of, you know, instant messaging on social media and, you know, the kids were having conversations. Even if you had, you know, you were watching over them, okay, you get this much time and, you know, no more. There were conversation happening over which every time an adult could not have a control.
Even the three-way conversations. You know, even Mean Girls has this one as well. I think maybe I don't know whether the film inspired the people or the people get inspired by the film, because they both came around, happened at the same time. But you know, one girl would probably call you and badmouth another girl, and you know, sometimes
the third one's on the line.
Yeah, third one is on the line, silent. And if you speak even a single word out of, it could be anything, it could be something very neutral, and
but it's
could
perceived to be
misconstrued entirely. Yes.
But Anu, did you see that? How did you see that impacting her mind, her behavior?
But she was good in her studies. She was horse riding, skating, dancing. You know, an outdoorsy kind of a child, and very happy to be. And then I saw her kind of, you know, withdrawing. Really, I mean, she was never a huge extrovert, but I saw her really sort of going within herself, and she stopped eating. And I suddenly saw, you know, she says, I don't feel like going to, you know, I have a stomach ache. And this was a child who always wanted to go to school. So around that time is when this whole lunchroom, you know, episode was happening. And finally we came to that point where, you know, we had to go see the school, meet the, you know, starting the class teacher and so on and so forth. It was many years ago when these sort of conversations perhaps were not taken that seriously. Maybe schools were also kind of grappling, you know, to figure out everything, how to deal with this issue. I mean, now you have huge signs and stuff put up in schools everywhere, you know, bullying is not allowed, ragging is not permissible, this school does not allow, or, you know, this institution doesn't allow. It's everywhere, even for, you know, colleges and universities.
ragging is out.
Ragging is out
those
totally.
Things because
Yeah,
it's
criminal
all,
offense
and
now.
It's all
ragging
impacted.
used to be like a rite of passage.
Absolutely.
You know?
And at some stage it was considered fun. It was considered extremely
Tradition.
normal.
Yeah.
But when it goes to a next level and it goes on to demeaning and breaking down a person, definitely needs to go out of the window.
So that was it. I think we just came to that point where we felt that, she was herself in such a bad shape that we felt that it was time to seek professional help.
Did you ask for help at any stage, Aradhana?
Yes.
Did you feel that, okay, this is it, I can't handle it myself any longer?
Yes.
So, and what was going on at that time when you felt that?
Okay, so firstly, I'd like to, this is something I really want to stress upon. I was very fortunate that I had super amazing parents who were always there. They kept our conversations very, very, like they were approachable. Both of them were extremely approachable. So I was able to talk to them about anything. Our conversations, there was a lot of transparency in the relationship and clear communication. So I was fortunate enough to have that. So I let them know
From the beginning?
from time to time.
From
Let's
more
just
or
say
less.
they had an idea.
What was going on?
And then when things started to worsen, I started to share more. Whereas in some cases, it is the opposite of that.
Sure.
Children tend to withdraw.
Withdraw, right.
But I could really confide in both of them. My father is my best friend and confidant, and my mom is, she's somebody who, we're very different as people, but she's always stressed on clear communication. She makes you talk. Even these days, if I'm having a bad day, if I've had a bad meeting, or there are I'm in a line of work which is very
A bad audition.
a bad audition,
Right,
okay, and I don't want to talk about it, because I'm an independent, strong girl now. I'm supposed to be.
Right.
But then she just says, she asked me once, and I said, no, nothing. And then she can sense, parents have a sense of the children's voice, and she says, just say it. And literally 2 minutes later, I probably start crying, and I talk to her, and I tell her, and I feel better.
Yeah.
So like she mentioned, it is important to talk to people.
Right. Absolutely. In fact, that brings me back to you, Arvinder. So depression does not always come out of the blue. It's gradual. It's not the best thing to happen. What can parents do to keep track of signs, symptoms? How can they tune in? Here we have an example of a family which was probably always in tune with each other, and the communication was always open and easy, and that made it so much easier for Aradhana to deal with everything. But there will be families where this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
What do you suggest to those parents?
Well, I think, the mother of all is just stay tuned into your child. Right. And by that, I mean not just verbally what the child's saying, but also the nonverbal behavior, like how's the child acting? Is the child who was suddenly very chirpy, is he or she withdrawn, quiet, looks sad, very preoccupied, shuts the door when comes back from school? In very young children, total change of behavior. In very young children, frequent headache, stomach ache, problems which have no apparent physiological reason. Right. Also, there's something called the masked depression. So it's like a mask, right? So it doesn't show. So children who are very aggressive, you tend to go scold them and yell at them a little more, but they're just depressed. And that's one of the ways they are expressing. So not to go by any specific symptom,
yes,
but if there are many of these happening for 2 weeks or more. See, a little bit of low mood depression we all
is
go
normal,
through.
Of course.
Like Anu shared that, like initially she said, it's one of those school things, because it does happen, that's real. But when it persists, that's when you need to talk, you need to take cognizance, you need to do something about it.
Because it's impacting the child's life in
many
ways. She's losing weight, not eating.
There's, also, something that we don't really talk about, self-harm happens.
Yes.
So there's a
substance
lot of
abuse,
substance abuse, cutting up.
Right.
Substance abuse starts as young as, 9 to 10 years. So children,
That's
just when
just
they are
a
really
baby,
looking, absolutely, so we think. And children really don't know. I mean, their brains are not that developed to be able to decipher, right? I mean, it is a physiological process, but there is so much that's happening. and the child cannot handle. So they do turn to one thing or the other as a means. Like bullying in Aradhana's case was a trigger for her feeling anxious and then, also depressed. I mean, the symptoms that she showed were classic. Appetite is impacted, sleep is impacted, routine is impacted, no exercise, not wanting to look after yourself. A teen who takes a lot of pride in dressing up is suddenly not interested. Sometimes, that goes to an extent where you start giving away your prized possessions, where you start having these morbid kind of thoughts, you start writing morbid poetry,
Morbid poetry is very common.
So morbid poetry,
it is very common, and it is, when you read that stuff, it is very worrisome. It's crying for help.
It's worrisome. A parent just told me about how his child was very interested in Kurt Cobain and, so and so forth. And, and I asked the parent whether, he even knew what this was about and what the story was. He said, no, I just thought my child loves books. So just to help them be aware. And the fact is, there's a lot of obsession, philosophizing about death, dying.
Yes, I see that a lot these days. Again, I'm not going not to trivialize it, but there are a lot of kids who have started using the word as a fad.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm depressed.
Yeah.
How do we, find that difference out? How does a parent will get worried if the child comes and says, oh, I'm so depressed or whatever.
Yeah.
But how do you know if that is being used in a trivial manner, or is it something which is a little more deep-rooted?
Well, the rule of thumb is take it seriously.
Take it seriously.
Take it seriously till you're proven otherwise.
Sure.
So it's not like you're hovering around. It's not like you're going to be this helicopter parent and then, but just have a conversation around it. What does depressed look like for you? Yeah. What does depressed show like in your day? What is depressed doing to you in your body? What is depressed doing to you at your school?
Break it down.
Break it down. Just sort of, let's just deal with this. And then when the child starts talking, you will get all the signs and symptoms.
Automatically, everything will be visible.
And then, of course, you turn to a trained professional. You turn to, any kind of professional help.
Right.
And the trick is, early intervention.
Right.
Early intervention. I just say, parents, please don't judge your child. Don't moralize. Don't wish it away.
I was going to say that.
Don't just say, oh, it's all in your head.
Prejudices in society. Don't bow down to those.
No, these words, it's all in your head. You can deal with it. Be strong.
Yeah.
Well,
it's sadness. It's just sadness.
It's like,
get over it.
When it's depression, people say it's all in your head. Shake it off. When you break a leg, they don't just sort of say, oh, it's all in your leg.
You
shake
get
it
treated.
off.
You
don't shake off your broken leg. Why do you shake off your, when it's emotionally you're so much in turmoil. So I just feel that because as parents, we may not know how to handle it. We may be scared for our children, but I think
that's it, that we ourselves sometimes
so
will be scared.
So we're really, we are in denial of something like that can happen. It happens to other people out there.
That's the problem.
But it's like when suicide, most people ask me that, oh, but this child was showing no signs.
Yes, how do you relate to that? Because have parents missed out on something?
Well, it's never, there are very few cases where it's sudden, like a sudden death or a loss, which just impacts, which sort of, somebody who's had a loss of face or a loss of someone very close.
Even exams, even academics, a lot of children.
It's a horrible incident. You must have read about it in the papers. 21 children in Telangana committed suicide because of their exam results, which was apparently a computer glitch. 21 children. Now that is, like you said, it is
that just shows you the stress.
The stress
that they're going through, the expectations. But what I really wanted to talk about was the signs are there. Since you said about the suddenness, it
signs
appears,
will be there.
The signs are there. We need to really open our eyes to it. I'll give you a small example. There's this one parent who sort of said, you know how these children are. So much drama. You know what my son told me? He said, Mama, what would it look like if there was a garland around my picture?
So if that child has had that thought.
And then went on with this conversation, and I said, hold on, just tell me more about that. What is happening, etc., etc., etc. And of course, this parent got concerned, worried, and I was glad she shared that with me, and so was she. Went back, and actually the child was very low, very depressed, and actually was contemplating ending it all because
Was
this is a
visualizing
cry.
his own death.
It's really a
It's
cry
very
for
common.
help.
You'd
It's
be
very common.
surprised.
It is, so the ideation is very common. You think, and it's very different from the death wish. Oh, I wish I could just die.
Right.
But it's
Yeah,
I
like we
think
loosely
it-
say, oh my
yeah.
God, I'm so tired, I wish I could die.
Yeah.
I mean, the hopelessness is very,
Yeah.
very high, and I think all of us as parents, professionals, caregivers, friends, aunts, siblings, everybody, I think it becomes our business to really
For the
talk about
entire
it.
support system, friends, family, educationists,
Yeah.
everyone who's a stakeholder in your life,
Yeah,
friends.
yeah. And the
Yeah.
stigmas come from so much
So
of
many, yeah.
moral judgment around
Judgment,
feeling low, feeling depressed, feeling
Right.
suicidal.
Generations of conditioning as well.
Absolutely. In your work situations, you'll find it's not cool to
Yeah.
be depressed. It's not cool to talk about being low. You've got to put on that mask and
Brave
be
face.
strong and walk,
You must be facing
And the facade
that.
is very draining. Absolutely. It-
You're in the glamour world where in any case, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to get trolled. I'm sure you've already faced that.
absolutely.
So does it ever trigger things from from the past?
I think sometimes I feel that bullied sometimes.
You feel bullied sometimes?
Yeah, if you're at a film set and
Huh.
you get stuck with uh, it's happened only once with me. I've been very fortunate. A bad director who is
Aggressive.
He has
Unreasonable or aggressive.
he has his whole vision in his head, but he doesn't know how to execute it or how
Sure.
to get people to do it. And he uses very abusive ways.
Right.
So then what do? You can't because he's your director. You have to listen. But I want to add to something to what she was saying. Yes, there will always be some signs. They might be really, really small, but parents need to keep their eyes and ears open, aware. And so my parents luckily were. And however, there's another point that I want to add. So my dad and my mom are very, they're passionate people. They're passionate about their work, their children. They love me a lot. So naturally, it really stressed them out. So they went to the school to seek help, to fix things. But that sometimes has, it's counterproductive. It wasn't their intention. I'll tell you what happened. So the school again, takes it very seriously. These things are new, but they made, there is pressure. So they will probably call the children in and question them or give them
Or counsel them.
And at that time, see, bullies are
Probably
manipulative.
gets worse then.
Bullies are manipulative people. So when the adults are around, they will apologize. They will say sorry. They will hug the person they're bullying. And this has happened to me. So I'm just sharing. As soon as the adults have turned their back, it becomes worse because they're like, oh, so
Tattletale.
tattletale. You're gonna tell on us. You're such a
Oh,
coward.
now your mom is going to come again.
Oh, now your mom's gonna come again. This one, she got. I used to get this, and I went up. I got angry because I couldn't handle it. I went to her. I said, "You need to stop it. What are you doing? You're ruining my life." And my dad said, "No, it's fine. You're a strong girl. You look at you're such a strong girl. You're doing this. You're doing." I said, "No, you guys are biased. You're just biased." And because of that, this is my story. So. Because I didn't
really
want
how it happens actually.
I
in the
didn't
most-
want
for
a
the most
biased
part.
opinion anymore because as my parents will say it because they love me. They don't mean it. They're saying I'm strong because they love me, not because I'm actually strong.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling strong and they're saying I'm strong. So I needed that reassurance to come from a very unbiased space,
Which was
professional help.
and you found it.
Absolutely. I asked for it. I told them I need someone who's going to give me the truth because they don't love me. They need to,
Right, yeah. They're going to give an objective.
They're going to
kind
give
of
me a neutral, if they will give me some sort of a neutral advice.
We have a
Parents-
question for you, Aradhana,
Yes.
from the audience, from our viewers who are watching.
Yes.
Farah wants to know how to teach children, especially young girls, to deal with bullying in general and build resilience. I think you're probably right now the poster girl for that because you proved it in your life.
Well, to all the young girls out there, you have to share. You have to share. You have to find a confidant, whether it's your parents, like she said, whether it's a friend, a teacher, it could be anybody. First thing, you need a place where you can share. Second thing, you need to find your identity, because children deal with identity crisis. They want to know who they are and find themselves. There's a lot of talk about finding yourself, and I don't think we've ever found ourselves. We're all still growing. Yes, everybody's looking. So you need to still look at ways to find yourself. Finding yourself doesn't mean just sitting there and thinking about it. You have to do things. So for me, what really worked was I had stopped dancing. I was a dancer, and when all of this happened, I stopped. Like she mentioned, I was very outdoors.
With your activities.
Yes. And I stopped doing that. I stopped going horse riding. I stopped dancing. I was on medication to make me eat, and it made me gain 30 kilos in a span of 11 months. So that then came fat shaming with that.
Oh God, it didn't end.
And for an athlete to go through fat shaming it's a different thing altogether. So for me, when I was in recovery, what really helped me was getting into dancing. So for me, it was dancing and drama therapy, which is why my craft is so close to me, because I feel it was a sort of a renaissance for me. A rebirth for me when I got into drama therapy, and that was one space where I could just be myself. People are much more accepting there, and you get to run away from your own problems and live the trials and tribulations of another character.
So that was your escape zone, which worked for you.
But for other girls, maybe not. Maybe drama and dance isn't everybody's thing. So maybe it could be painting, or it could be reading, or it could be just going to the gym, or it could just be listening to music or making music or anything. Like my dad plays golf when he's stressed. You need to find that healthy escape. What is substance abuse? Substance abuse is an escape. People, even adults. In adults, alcoholism is common. It is an escape route to deal with all the stresses that are the ever-growing stresses of life.
Daily, consistent stresses.
That is such a sensible way to put it. Okay, that deserves something. Yeah, some love, some absolute lies. Come on, people. I think Aradhana really deserves that. Definitely.
Find it. So you don't have to depend on people for your happiness.
No,
I think if I could just take a step backward and see that, look, accept, and it's all right to not be all right sometimes, but it's not all right to stay in that space. So I think what she really did was just went out and spoke. Even if she got more flack, she went and fought with her parents. Stop coming to school, don't do it, you're making it worse, you're biased, I want help. So she really accepted that there was a problem, which is beyond me. I think this whole business of courage, I think the latest theories that we really need to learn and know about is how our vulnerability and accepting that is courage. And so being brave is not hiding, but being brave is about accepting and asking for help. And then the communication between the parents, it's noteworthy, and I congratulate both of you for having this beautiful relation, because half the reason why we
getting
have this,
comments about that also.
Why we have this wonderful young woman here, so confident, so wonderful, is because there is a mother who has actually gone through her own set of, going through her own trauma of seeing the child suffer, because there's nothing worse for a mother than to see the child suffer and feel very helpless and not being able to do something. You wish you could just shush all those children up or do something. But it's like that helplessness. Your child needs to go to school, and every day you must be worrying and wondering what's coming back today.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's like the communication, the fights, not judging the child. Don't have an opinion.
Sure.
It's something that can happen to any one of us.
No, it's truly remarkable.
The WHO figure of 2020 is 20% in India will have some mental health issue or the other.
So young people or in general?
In general. So,
so it's 1/5 of the population.
So every fifth person you're shaking hands with is going to have some issue.
And we don't have that many mental health.
So what we really need to focus on
professionals.
What do we need to focus on? I mean, it's highly preventable. So we need to talk more about the preventive measures. What do we do?
Right.
Yeah, we talk, we go to organizations, there is Sanjivini, there are some helplines, there are professionals, there are psychiatrists. There's also about educate yourself on how it shows up, the small signs and symptoms. what do you do when that happens?
Yeah.
And the fact that help someone.
Help someone, I think
know?
the stigma part of it, break
Because
that stigma.
There's no
first
shame
of
in
all.
getting help.
Of course,
It takes a very brave
also,
person.
And treat it as an illness.
There are very small things that our culture, I mean, it has always had. We've always talked about meditation and yoga and mindfulness and go out and play and a hobby, like she pointed out, go paint.
They work.
So they work.
Channelize your energy.
It's again, if you're chemically seeing, you're also just sort of tapping that part of the brain, which has some happy spots.
Endorphins. It's chemical.
So we do have the endorphins. We do need neurotransmitters. The new connections need to be made. And the good news is, we're no longer hardwired.
Sure.
So now, now you can make new neural connections, whatever be the age. So go for it, go learn something new. But I'm very keen on, what did you do, Anu, for yourself?
So, okay.
Because that's what the mothers need to hear. What did you do, my dear, to keep yourself together?
So, well, it was, let's just put it this way. Many times I thought that, I shouldn't be worried about myself, or I shouldn't be worried about the husband. And he felt the same, because this is about her.
But you have another child in the house.
Yeah, so we always
also
thought,
watching.
We always thought that, it's about her. So we really have to center all our energies, focus all our energies on getting her better, giving her the support, being there for her, being non-judgmental, all of that. However, you see, this is very energy draining work. This is not an easy job. Anybody who's been out there, or anybody who's ever cared for anybody close to them whom they love, who's suffering like this, there's no apparent problem. There is, everything else seems to be okay with the person. But hell yes, that person is going through something which is really, really tragic, traumatic in the worst sense of the word. The caregiver is suffering as well. The caregiver is, like, for example, we had that kind of watershed moment where we were talking to her therapist, and, she says, sometimes I feel that my mom just switches off and she backs off, and she...
You felt that?
I mean, like, a little later, because you see, you're tired. You're coping with something which is 24/7. There is no release. There's no holiday from this stuff. You can never say that, okay, I'm going to just take time out and move away and, rest myself, refresh myself.
And for half an hour.
And come back. You see? And the child is suffering. The child is putting you through hell, because the child doesn't really understand what is happening. You yourself are many times ill-equipped, because, you see, the social scenario at that time, there is other stuff going on. It's not like, your existence is only this. There is the business of life happening, and you realize that you yourself need to to kind of help yourself. For me, what has always worked is working out, going for long walks, the nature stuff, the creative stuff, because it's professionally I'm a creative person. So all that worked for me, and I'm really happy that she also found something which is from the creative or performing arts to kind of channel. When she says channelize her energies into it. Another thing I want to talk about is when you said moms have to be really, really tough on this one. Parents, both the parents need to be tough on this one. I know that a mom is her strongest and her bravest, and we spoke about it like a tigress indeed, when her cub, her child is hurt, is being threatened, and this is a huge threat. I mean, you were reading out the statistics. My heart was sinking, because I was thinking and how many out of those, even those 25% you said that who finally get some kind of attention, something,
reaching
help,
out,
somebody, handling things for them. How many of those also get, all the right combination of support? Because it's got to be support from, a professional therapist or your doctor. It's got to be, in some ways, at least some kind of peer group support.
That was missing.
Something
for
somewhere.
you, the peer group was missing, the support from
Then, of course, parents are there, but parents, they can continue to support. The child will need a little bit beyond that, you see. we spoke about it, we were talking about it in the car, that, there's this larger circle of influence that every family has. And there are people who would support and who would look down upon it as something very trivial, or something which is, like we said, we kind of, it's a weakness of some sort. So we kind of had both. We had fortunately for us, we had a mix of both kind of reactions and support
from friends and family.
And the ones who were supportive, well, I think it really helped for us to forge amazing emotional bonds with those people. Those friends are, more than family.
Friends for life.
Yeah, friends for life.
They're all still in our life.
And the ones who couldn't, who wouldn't, or who couldn't help, best of luck to them, because they, somewhere they will have their learning. In fact, obviously not naming anybody, but a friend who couldn't understand and would always question, say, no, but like, tell her to be brave, tell her to. And a couple
I wish it were that easy.
Yeah, and a couple of years later, unfortunately, this person fell prey to depression. So, and then that person comes back and tells you, I feel like I could have been much more supportive at that time. So this is a universal thing. There are all sorts of people, any kind of profession, any kind of age group, even animals sometimes suffer depression.
Sure,
so
you
we
must have
are
seen your dogs.
In fact, we're getting so much of a response from people who are watching, and please keep writing. Please put down your comments, your stories. Swarnali Kar says, this is so true. One should engage in meaningful activity. Sometimes a person starts an activity, then after a few days withdraw. How to train your mind and push yourself again?
So something I want to say over here is there is nature that you're blessed with. There is nurture, your environment. And then there is choice. And human beings are the only
living beings
to
make that
who have that option of being able to make a choice. And I can say for Aradhana, she made that choice to say, no, look, I think I need an unbiased person to help me in this. She made another choice when she was plus 30 kgs, having been fat shamed for a couple of years.
3 years.
And then, it was tough. And then, going into late teenage. And she just decided, and she will tell you more about it.
I didn't have a date to prom. It was very sad.
Yeah. And for a parent, it's like heartbreaking.
It was.
Exactly, absolutely. And that's what you look forward to maybe
Absolutely,
for the last 5 years of your school life.
Yeah. So she will talk about that. And we kind of felt that, she made another brave choice when she spoke to her therapist and she says, okay, look, I think I need to be able to handle this on my own. I need to be able to, maybe get, weaned off my medication, because I know it's creating this thing for me. There is this fit person inside. And I need to make it better for myself. And she came back one day. I want to tell this story. She came back one day from a movie with her little brother. And after a really,
This was like rock bottom time.
And, husband and I sitting in front of the television and like, okay, now, okay, so now what next? Whilst they were away. And the little one comes in and he opens the door and he says, okay, now Didi is going to come in and she's going to say something. I want you all to please listen to her carefully. I thought
so he's tuned in into the...
He was so good. Touch wood.
He's grown beyond his years.
Yeah.
So like we said, it has impacted the entire family, not just the parents who had to give support, but your younger brother who stepped up as well and knew what to do.
Absolutely.
And she came right in and she says, okay, I want to say I love the people in this room. They have been with me through hell and back, and this is back. I'm coming back. I'm choosing to do this. Give me 3 months. And, when you've seen so much in the preceding years, you can be a little disbelieving. Even a parent, sometimes can have those moments of the spells of doubt.
Yeah.
Too good to be true.
And
kind
too
of
good
a-
to be true.
Yeah.
And so we said, yes, of course. What do you want us to do? She says, I don't want you to do anything. I'm going to
Okay.
do all the doing. And she launched herself into this, from, tons of pizzas coming into the home every day and bottled drinks and stuff. She launched herself into this papaya and salad and soup and kind of a diet. And she was dancing double classes 6 times a week. She had to
I did
restart.
4 batches of dance.
She had to restart. She was at a very senior level before all this happened.
Okay.
And they told her, they said,
You have
well,
to go back to
you've been
beginners.
away so long, you please start from
Oh
beginner.
God, okay.
And she restarted, and within 3 months, the girl was back.
And you were dancing at the musical, you had started doing
Yeah,
things.
she was.
So the
So,
musical was happening simultaneously. I think my decision happened in, it was my New Year resolution.
Okay. All right.
And so that was your January first week, and my first audition for the musical was in end Feb, and my second round was in end March, and the third meeting was in April, and finally we started our rehearsals in May, and in May the director looks at me and he says, no, so when I saw you I wanted to cast you as the witch, but now would you be interested in trying out for the queen?
Oh,
And
fabulous.
because you were like disappearing, and like I said, because casting is look based.
Sure, of course,
So
well,
it's skill
I
based.
feel-
You had to do aerobic,
Aerial dance, yeah.
aerial dance, and yeah.
Ramit says, such a strong and inspiring mother-daughter duo, and I can't agree more. Again,
Yeah,
from my side, there's
absolutely.
love
Yes.
there. and
Thank you,
there's
Ramit.
loads of
Thank you.
likes,
Thank
there's-
you.
There's smiles. I think, I don't know, I could probably use each one of
Yeah.
these.
It's all about love, I think. Love,
Yeah.
acceptance, and support.
Vishal also says, wonderful to hear that Aradhana had supportive parents she could speak with through this period. Madhumita and a whole lot of others, Pooja, Reshmi, Anubha, everybody has commended this particular topic, and very impressive, lots to learn. Madhumita says, thank you for coming out and breaking the taboo, which I think is one of the things we had intended to do. So if that helps, I think we've really achieved our objective there. Preeti has also written about how she got emotional support. Well, she's talking about during her pregnancy, but a bad stage is a bad stage.
Yeah,
at
yeah.
any which way.
Postpartum depression is
So,
most misunderstood.
most misunderstood.
It's, so
Lata says
yeah.
the facts are shocking, the facts that we showed right in the beginning of the program. And yes, they are shocking. And one of the reasons why we wanted to bring that out was just that, to shock everybody out of a certain complacence that we all settle into, that, this can only happen to someone else. But if it's happening to 1 in 4 children, God forbid it comes to your doorstep next. We had, when we sent out the poll, we had a lot of people writing in about their impressions and their experiences. Also, some people tried to, figure out what are we doing? Are we overindulging kids? So Tina felt that, yes, maybe that's one of the reasons why, kids are demanding, we are giving, and they're in competition and they don't know then how
pressure
to
to
deal
conform.
with it. So that may be also that. And then once they're out in the real world and they're not able to get everything they want, there's this whole, a different state of mind that they go into.
I guess it's a peer pressure we're talking about, not just the kids, but with the parents
Sure.
as well,
the parents
on
as
being
well.
able to
Totally.
provide. And this whole new term,
Absolutely.
the helicopter
Right.
parenting, comes just
Helicopter
from there,
parenting,
that if you're not a helicopter parent, then you're not involved enough.
Oh, yeah.
I remember feeling very guilty as a young mother because I didn't put my child into the,
Classes.
the zillion classes every week. And I was like, well, I sort of believe in unstructured time. And, I sort of had to kind of eat my words and be sure
you're
that
right,
what you
of
do.
course,
So
yeah.
it's like the pressure is everywhere. It's very
Right.
potent. It's very there. But I think the message is very clear that you've got to figure out, and parenting is something that you don't have a set formula. You're not born with it. In this day and time,
You're
have
learning.
to actually
it's on
learn.
the job. I'm sure you're
It
learning
is a
things every
skill.
day. Even
Every
now,
day.
It
I
is a
am.
skill. I mean, I was going to say that, I mean, we're all moms here other
Yeah.
than Aradhana, but, I think it's like something that we're evolving, learning,
Absolutely,
learning
yeah.
to navigate,
Ritu had another point of view. She said that parents are so busy handling other things, they're unable to pay the required attention to their kids. Kids are not able to share their views and problems. And of course, she goes into other
Sure,
details, but
yeah,
that's one of the
yeah.
reasons that
See,
she's
there's that,
pointed
and
out.
then there's the other side of this working mother who's also a guilty mother,
Overindulgent. Guilty mother,
So,
yes.
so
Yeah.
moms, please just don't be guilty about working and doing, things
Right,
that make your heart sing. So, you got to do that to be a good.
Most
Find
definitely.
your
good mother,
passion.
you
Find
know?
your passion.
Find your passion. Go do
Because
your
you're
thing.
not dependent
and,
on anything else for your happiness.
We
Like,
strongly believe in
And
that.
I think, moms are the first female role models.
Right.
And if the young little girl, the teenage, and then the young adult is watching the mother's evolution as this strong,
Absolutely.
not in control, but in charge person.
In charge.
Who is happy to learn, who falls, stumbles,
Decisive,
and gets herself
absolutely,
up.
Absolutely.
Um,
Normal, real,
yeah,
strong.
yeah.
I mean, they're all part of it.
my mom always taught me that it is okay to cry. Because crying is always perceived, unfortunately, as weakness. But we were always taught, my brother and I at home, that crying is basically a form of.
Release?
No, it is more of an acknowledgement. So you know something bad has happened. You don't stay in denial. You accept what has happened to you. You cry because acceptance is always the first step to recovery. Only if you acknowledge, accept, and of course release.
Yes,
Is
of
when
course.
you release is when you can get
And
relief.
that's a big thumbs up for you, Anu. Like,
Yeah,
to allow
totally.
those
She still calls me.
space to cry.
Sometimes so she says, cry, baby, cry, cry. It's okay. And one does really feel better sometimes.
Yeah.
Sure, of course.
I love what Neha Mishra Mutluru had said. She said it's hard for many adults to imagine what trauma can be for a child. For young children, something seemingly small as the feeling of being lonely, unloved, or unsafe can feel life-threatening and affects them in many more ways than we can imagine. That's really reflective of what we've talked about today. Shweta had an interesting comment about expectations. She says, हमारे यहाँ बच्चों को बच्चा ज़्यादा दिन तक रखने कहाँ दिया जाता है? 8th standard में आते ही उनको बोलते तुम बड़े हो गए हो. उनको बड़ा होने के लिए मजबूर किया जाता है. जब वो अपने आप को बड़ा बनाने लगते हैं तो हम कहते हैं कि छोटा होने का एहसास दिलाते हैं. So yeah, that's another thing. This whole paradox of how we're treating our children.
Yeah, it's also a clash of cultures, right? The
Right,
culture as in good old days or in families. Her mother's looking at her, 13, 14-year-old girl as a kid still.
Right.
But now the way children are growing up, and the sort of stuff they're exposed to on a
exposure,
daily basis.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Gauravi and Tejal have talked about that, that they're exposed to so much. And then that brings us back to what Shweta is saying, कि ना बड़े हो पाते हैं, ना छोटे रह पाते हैं. So it's a lot
like
to
she
do with
mentioned,
that.
the pressure to conform is not just on the children. So indeed, there is the pressure to conform amongst children, but the parents have it too. So there will be times which I'm sure even while you guys were growing up, you would have experienced that, parents in their own social gatherings discuss how many, what their children's achievements are.
Certificates,
Achievements
yes, absolutely. My children
Yes.
my child got a gold medal in this. My child got 97% in this. And then the parents whose children are probably not getting those accolades would go back home and without obviously unintentionally pressurize the child, and how they say in popular Hindi cinema,
Sharma
ji ka beta.
That's right. Yes.
It is exactly that.
To some extent, I think we've all been guilty of that. Subconsciously, maybe not thinking about it and all. You do talk about those
But
things.
we are all human at the end of the day.
point is
We look
be
at our parents
mindful.
as superheroes.
We all need to be mindful.
About Sharma ji ka beta for 97 I think if we just pad it up with और तुम कितना अच्छा डांस कर लेती हो,
Absolutely,
whatever else,
absolutely.
it's like, because
Don't
sometimes,
forget your child's
you just got to, it's not like let's shun and let's just create this very sterile environment where we don't talk about others, because it's a very natural conversation. But if we can just help our child build that strength wherein, any little thing does not sort of knock off his sense of confidence. Because it's like the blows are going to come out in the world, whether it's through bullies or anyone. But if there is this cushion of knowing that my parent has given it all for me and made me this person that I am, it just makes the blows soft.
And it'll give them, it'll empower them to strive to find their niche.
Yeah.
Sure.
After all, if a parent is not going to do it, who will?
Absolutely. The onus is on us. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, we're the biggest stakeholders in our child's life.
you know, human society is going to keep
Sure.
evolving. So this business of, you know, now, okay, so now there's so many other types of exposure on the child. There's so many other types of parents and families. You know, there's no joint family system. There's nobody to take care of the child, etc., etc. It's all going to keep changing.
It will
But
keep
what
evolving.
We'll have to
has-
work around the changes
yeah,
and
what is
adapt.
going, what has to remain is communication. What has to remain is awareness, grow, and, you know, make that awareness grow. Share stories. Share stories.
Drop the stigma. I think that's the other part of it that
Empathy
we've
is
spoken.
being strong.
Stop judging.
Yes.
That's really
Ignorance
important.
is not strength.
Also, sometimes I find that, you know, when children come and talk to us about a problem, we don't necessarily have to give a solution. I think parents get caught in that trap. You just have to listen. Just listen to what
help
they're
them to be
saying, you know,
heard,
just
yeah.
let them ventilate and don't judge or moralize and say,
I
of course
agree.
you're not feeling that. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
acknowledge that a child is feeling a certain way, because I find myself, even as a mother, you know, many times I've had to sort of check myself to say she's just wanting to talk.
Just wanting to talk.
You know,
Let her
just
air
let it just
whatever
air,
her
you know?
feelings are.
Yeah.
We have a quick question for you,
Sure.
Arvinder. Basically about medication and depression. That once a child, or especially a child, but we're talking about adults as well,
Sure.
once they get on medication for treating depression or any other kind of mental health disorder,
Yeah.
do they ever come off it?
Of course.
So that is what a fear is. I think one of the
Sure.
myths that we need to
See,
bust.
the only thing about this medication is that it's not like an aspirin that you pop it and your headache goes.
Mhm.
You know, you have to take it continuously over a period of
Period of
time.
time.
Your psychiatrist will have to titrate it. So seeing your psychiatrist regularly is important.
Right.
Also, because there is no blood
Yeah.
test which tells you how many milligrams of what you need, but
Right.
only a psychiatrist, based on your symptoms, will tell you. And of course, if you combine therapy with medication, the results are definitely way better.
Okay.
You know, and we have
We
somebody
have
sitting over
an
here who's
example to tell us
here's
about
a live
that.
example. So
Right.
the medication can be long term.
Yes.
It you know, and it takes about a couple of weeks to kick in. So don't
Okay,
give up on
okay.
that. Don't give up.
So like you said, it's not
showing.
an aspirin, it's not instant.
And
Stay with
recovery
it.
is
it's,
never
you know,
instant. It
it's-
will always be a
recovery is
gradual process.
obviously.
It's a
And you will
gradual
still have
process.
days where you're sad after that.
Like you said, you have
know,
those
but
days
that's
even
sad,
now.
you
That's
know?
sad.
Yeah.
That's what I said. So
And
that's
it's what we
Yes.
need to really know, that it is treatable, it's preventable. There are some lifestyle changes that if we incorporate little things like what our grannies would have always told you, to be grateful for what you have, to have mindfulness as a practice, meditation, yoga, deep breathe, hobbies, go out and play, nature. You know, it's amazing how 10 minutes of sitting in any green patch or looking at that color, how much it can, you know.
yes.
And how our
Yes.
land, I mean, India especially is a land of aromatherapy, and of course many other places as well, but it's so much a part of our culture. You know, we've always had agarbattis in the house.
Right,
Okay?
right.
So there is a little something
Therapy
that's
is
happening.
well within, I think. We
Any
just need
kind
to
of-
find
And
it.
touch
the-
therapy.
Touch
Sorry, I
therapy,
interrupted you.
yeah.
Sorry, but I just want to say that, you know, we also have this whole culture around self-care, like, no, it's indulgent. And I want to just use this platform to say to mums out there, self-care is not selfish. You know, take out time for yourself. Do what makes your heart sing, whether it's, you know, spending a little time in the spa or reading a book or going for a coffee with a friend or yoga or
See?
walking, anything.
That's where we get all these.
Oh yeah, we all love
Anything.
this.
That's
Love
just
yourself.
exactly what we want.
Absolutely, you know, just go for it. Love yourself, self-care, because
Yeah.
a happy mom will always do wonders for a child.
And again, like I said, we've got another example over here. We've got a really strong daughter, a strong, loving mom, supportive mom.
And you know, like, to help your child cope with any kind of mental health issue, you know, if a mother has to go for a therapy, please go for it, because you
Yeah.
will.
When
I
you
highly
mention-
recommend.
You did that?
I
I
would
do
sit
know,
in.
you know,
So
Yeah.
I would,
You
you
had
know.
separate sessions with him. As well.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so
I
all
met
the-
him, and you know, the doctor was very, very empathetic,
Right.
but without, again, like what she said, you know, no bias, no nothing. So that's very refreshing.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you
To be
need
able to get that
Yeah.
unbiased,
The family,
unjudged.
because if you're seeking advice from, when she would seek advice from family, even they come from, you know, there is
Old
bias
cultural
space.
baggage.
Also bias
Yeah.
space, you know, they're
Baggage
gonna
or
feel
bias
for
space.
her.
Bias
Yeah.
space.
They're
yeah.
going to, they're all a part, we
Yeah.
all become a part of the problem. I mean,
Yeah.
if as a professional, I mean, if it were my family member, I would have to seek help outside, because it was,
yes,
you know, I
yes.
would become a part of the
You're
whole
so
problem, you
so
know,
involved
just,
that you're
yeah.
probably seeing it at only a
Totally.
certain
Like a surgeon would not
there
be
is a
able to operate on their
There's
own
a-
family.
yeah, there's a subjectivity.
I have to
you know.
thank you all. We've gone beyond time, but and this conversation can go on.
Yeah.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've learned so much, and I am just completely taken in by the two of you. And thank you for your strength and for sharing it with everybody. I'm sure our viewers will appreciate it, will gain from it.
I hope we can help as many people. And
Okay.
even if one person benefits from this, I think our job here is done.
You know, the kind of empathy you exhibited
Yeah.
when you first spoke to both of us,
Yeah.
that was so hopeful.
Was hopeful.
That was such a ray of hope, because you know, this is back many years
Many
ago.
years, exactly.
And you know, it's like she's left it behind. Of course, you know, when it's not like a wound, but it is something which
It's
she has
difficult, of course.
learned several lessons. And I mean, I know for certain, as an actor, as a professional person who is, you know, on a random basis may face rejection in an audition, or you know, whichever
It's
way.
helped in my craft, the craft, as well as dealing with the rejection and the ups and downs that come with the craft. Both.
So it's like we say that, you know, going through the process of, say, making a cup of espresso, you go through those high temperatures, crazy pressures, and you come out even more strong, more intense, more flavorful. You're a true momspresso woman.
Lovely, I love that.
I love it.
Thank you so much,
lovely.
Arvinder.
Thank
You've
you.
really given us a lot of inputs. You've been
Thank you.
extremely articulate in your perspectives. And again, I'm sure everybody will benefit from it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you so
bringing
much.
such a pertinent topic onto the table, and of course, really courageous of you to come out there. Thank you for that.
Thank you all for watching.
Thank you.